Hey guys, how you going? I'm back, finally. I had a few days there without any internet or phone service, so I couldn't even update anybody on what was going on. So I apologise for not letting you guys know what's happening. I have moved, and can you hear that? Nothing. A whole lot of nothing. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. The move went well. The night before I moved, I fell down some stairs, so I do have, I hit my head on the stairs as well. So I think I've got concussion. Not been feeling well the last few days, but look, I said until I drop, I'm just going to keep doing this, so I'm back. And I'd like to thank Laurel from Ohio. I got some snail mail today. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I don't think I've ever seen American money. That's the first time I saw American money, so that was really interesting. And thank you so much for the donation. I really appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to get into this corona thing after all this time. Finally. Okay, this is okay, disclaimer before we start. This is speculation. There is no proof of what I'm about to say. It's just a theory that I and other people have also had, I realised. I thought I was one of the only ones. About this corona and what's actually going on. So if you don't like speculation or theories, or you need proof of things, it's probably not the video for you. But if you're interested, stay with me and I'll just show you some very weird language and stuff around this corona. So the corona as a word actually means projecting part of a classic cornice, something suggesting a crown, a usually coloured circle often seen around and close to a luminous body such as the sun or moon, caused by diffraction produced by suspended droplets or occasionally particles of dust. The tenuous outermost part of the atmosphere of a star such as the sun, circle of light made by the apparent convergence of the streamers of the aurora borealis, the upper portion of a bodily part such as the tooth or the skull, and a faint glow adjacent to the surface of an electrical conductor at high voltage. So the things that stick out to me in this is the crown, but also things like the sun and the faint glow adjacent to the surface of an electrical conductor at high voltage. Now the corona could be any one of these things. I looked more in towards being the crown because, like other things, I don't know if you've noticed, when it first came out it was corona. That changed to COVID. They keep changing. Every time they do something shifty, they'll change the name if it's not suiting or working enough. Like climate change. Okay, it was first in the 70s, it was actually an ice age coming. Then in the 90s it was global warming. Then they changed it to climate change because they couldn't account for the cold. And then it was just called extreme weather. They kept changing the name of it. And when they start doing things like that is when I really start to pay attention to what are they doing. So if we can look at this either as the crown, which is what I'm going to look at it as today, a crown virus. Okay, now let me see if I can do, yep, okay. So These are possible COVID code words, okay, and some of them are taken from research boards. So, okay, the infection could mean a sex-related crime. The infected child could be an assaulted child or a child at risk. Social distancing could mean a measure to keep potential pedophiles away from children, reducing abductions and visibly easier to spot when it happens compared to in crowds. Tests equals question by detectives or police. Home isolation equals under house arrest and ankle monitor used. Quarantine exposure, detain and question, quarantine child equals protection, providing witness statement possibly. And I haven't typed this out very well. Forgot to close the bracket there. Released from quarantine may mean released after questioning. They may be innocent or questioned again at a later date. Coronavirus cases, criminal investigations. Now for your average criminals, it's COVID positive, means charged and confessed to take a deal, execution out of public eye. I don't know why average criminals are in, it shouldn't be written in there. COVID negative is no confession going to trial, so they're going to fight it. Deaths from COVID is already executed, and we don't know what the child, if a death from a COVID for a child, not sure what this means. A cluster outbreak, multiple arrests in one location. Contact tracing, detective investigations to determine links between criminal cases. Deep clean and lockdown equals closed for forensic detective investigation, especially buildings, for tunnel entries and hidden documents. In hospital or intensive care with COVID could mean in jail or in high security lockup or awaiting execution. Symptoms may mean suspicious behaviour. Reported as murdered or suicide will be equals executed with a cover story. And second wave could be mass suicides whilst awaiting trials or execution. Now, as I said, this is just speculation and theory, but it does have a bit of merit to it. Okay, now I think there's much more to this virus than what we are being told, and some reports lately from the Victoria Herald Sun mainly, most of which relate to reports of the virus that I suspect are actually pedophile and associated criminal cases being examined by detectives, which by judgment shows the corruption crimes being cleaned up across Victoria, Australia's hotspot. Of course, I've no proof to back any of this up. I'm merely going off intuition, which so far I believe has brought my understanding to where it is right now. There seems to be a pattern in the use of terms which I'll interpret here as seen in the news reports. I also think that 2 weeks isolation was deemed sufficient in most cases for an investigation to take place, and retesting required if the case needed longer. Okay, now Meadow Glen Primary School was closed for 3 days while it is cleaned and contact tracing is done. A male music teacher tested positive for COVID. Principal Loretta Piazza said the man had very mild symptoms. Does this mean suspicious behaviour? And was originally turned away from early testing. He then got a test as part of a state government blitz crackdown, maybe, and sort of found out by accident. The teacher was not in contact with children. 2 teachers have been asked to self-isolate for 14 days after being in close contact with children. And also a paramedic in Victoria tested positive, forcing colleagues into quarantine. A class of 12 students and 8 staff at McLeod Preschool have been asked to isolate for 2 weeks after a teacher tested positive to coronavirus. It comes as 4 new cases were linked to an outbreak at a Melbourne hotel. And it's just where it's happening as well, which is quite suspect to a lot of us. Okay, on the Herald Sun on the 13th of May, McDonald's in Fawkner, Victoria has had 6 confirmed cases, with another 3 linked to the outbreak. The store was closed for 2 weeks as a precaution for deep cleaning to be undertaken. Another 92 staff members quarantined and tested to quarantine for 14 days as a precaution. Herald Sun, the 14th of May. Okay, from March 23rd, at least 136 Victorian companies have gone into voluntary administration or liquidation, maybe due to corruption. I think more likely this is due to a lot of these companies being involved in trafficking themselves, as we've found out the last few days with the pictures of the, I don't know if you guys have seen them. There's pictures of cabinets, and they're called like the Sarah cabinet or the Claire cabinet or something. They're people's names, and people actually found out the names trace back to missing children. So I found that quite interesting. Okay. Another 92 staff members quarantined and tested to quarantine for 14 days as a precaution. That was at McDonald's. Oh yeah, due to corruption. Sorry, I forgot where I was up to there, guys. Liquidators say the current upheaval is just the calm before the storm. Where have we heard that before? This is what I mean. You've got to look into this language when you're reading newspapers or listening to the news. Try to read between the lines, because that's what you've sort of got to do. And when, like, this is an Australian, the Australian Treasurer, I think, yep, said this: the calm before the storm. While Treasurer Tim Pallas expects it will take years for the state to recover. He said, unfortunately, we expect things, quite frankly, to get much worse before they get better. And we're expecting an unprecedented fall in activity over the next 6 months. Wow. A list of businesses that have gone into either of the above are listed between the dates of the 20th of March and the 12th of May. Mr. Pallas said sporting and major events would be hit hard, and that international education was one of the state's biggest exports. For children, that's what it sounds like to me. And as we're finding out, guys, I don't know if I just pretty much tried to catch up today with everything going on, and that's when I saw those cabinets. And I think a lot of these businesses, also when you look at McDonald's, okay, think meat. And as bad as it is to think about it, because there's a lot of meat packing businesses caught up in all of this as well as like McDonald's restaurants. Okay, let's go to the next one. Herald Sun, the 18th of May, 12 McDonald's stores closed for deep cleaning Victoria after a truck delivery driver tested positive for COVID, as he had interacted with restaurant employees before knowing he had the virus. Now, the restaurant employees of McDonald's are from 14 up. As soon as you are eligible to work in Australia, you can be employed by McDonald's. I'm not sure if it's still 14 and 9 months or if they've dropped the age or what. But this could also be quite suspect. Maybe some of the young people at McDonald's were being abused by older people in charge. I'm not saying they are. I'm just speculating here. McDonald's spokesman said the decision had been made out of an abundance of caution. A list of the 12 McDonald's stores is given. A Domino's pizza shop in Fairfield, and the Comfort Group, a mattress manufacturer in Deer Park. Now, we've heard of the mattress manufacturers being a front for trafficking because of how many mattress stores are open in one suburb or right next to each other, and they can't possibly be selling that many mattresses a day to keep all those stores open. And the pizza shop. We all know what pizza code is. Okay, anyway, the mattress manufacturer in Deer Park have been closed as authorities investigate links to coronavirus cases. Now, do you see where we're going with this? It's just a bit too convenient and very strange reports. Now, this is why I say when you look at the news or you read a newspaper, be very careful and be very critical of what you're reading. Again, 3 Melbourne schools affected by COVID outbreak. Students at 3 schools in Melbourne's northwest have been quarantined after coming into contact with another pupil who tested positive for COVID. The infected student attends Cr0wn College, but is believed to have come into contact with Taylor Lakes Secondary and St Albans Secondary College pupils while infectious. Okay, just think Epstein. Where did he recruit his girls from? He got girls to recruit each other. Could this also be what's going on here? This is what I'm thinking. It's exactly what I'm thinking of, is the same methods that Epstein used, because these are secondary colleges, so they'd be in that age range. Cr0wn College has been temporarily closed until next week, with the 2 affected schools remaining open and the contacted students put into isolation. And they could end up being witnesses or anything like that. The positive case has been connected with a family cluster. Now, the family cluster was a group of these people. Earlier this week, Deputy Premier James Merlino confirmed a teacher from the same school had tested positive, but the test was not revealed to the community. Professor Sutton urged Victorians to continue working from home, saying it was too soon to get back to normal. And they're just trying to keep Victoria shut down, but there could be a reason for that. Professor Sutton said there was no link between the student and the teacher, but that the cases might reveal some community level of transmission in Cr0wn. It comes just 4 days after students resumed and the student was infectious on site, so possibly assaulted at school. On May the 26th, Professor Sutton said Victoria recorded 6 more COVID cases in the past 24 hours, with a 7th redacted due to a data issue. Redacted is a term used more in legal matters than health, maybe. Of those cases, 3 are the result of routine testing. Incidental, maybe, just finding out, just coming across it maybe, that this was happening in these schools. 2 have been in hotel quarantine following overseas travel, and 2 of those are under investigation. Another term more used in the legal than health matters. Yeah, under investigation normally isn't used as a health term. On the Herald Sun on the 21st of May, these are older reports, but I'm just trying to show you how this Could very well be something else other than what we are actually, the words we're reading. Cedar Meats update. 3 new cases of COVID have been linked to the Cedar Meats cluster, bringing the total number of cases linked to the Brooklyn, Victoria abattoir to 106. A total of 4 new cases have been recorded in total, with no new cases in aged care facilities or linked to McDonald's restaurants. And another theory could also be that the meat. There's something wrong with the meat. I can't believe this. This is what my conclusions. I had help with this, by the way, but my conclusions are that the meat part of this has to do with cannibalism. Crime rates in Victoria have dropped to 2014 levels in a positive twist to the COVID pandemic. Well, is that only because no one was allowed out? No surprises there. There have been fewer residential burglaries, robberies, assaults, sexual offences and home invasions. And would a lot of these actually have been child abduction related but not reported by the mainstream media as such? Because that may be. The media say the decline is attributed to people being at home and the closure of pubs and clubs. But worryingly, there has been a slight increase in aggravated burglary cases. Are they last-minute attempts to kidnap children? Okay, a senior Department of Education employee has been the victim of a hit and run by a car. What impeccable timing during a pandemic when no one's out. Deborah Loco, 60, had an extensive portfolio in the state's education system, largely as a maths teacher, but also holding principal positions such as South Oakley Secondary College, acting principal at Chandler Secondary College, and as an acting regional director of South Eastern Victoria region. She was awarded the Australia Council for Educational Leaders Fellowship last year. So she's right in with schools, and she has been principal mainly. It just so happened that her husband Frank Loco also died from serious injuries in a driving accident in 2016 while on holiday in the Philippines. He was a teacher at the Chandler Secondary College. Frank Loco also happened to be the brother of former Brighton Mayor John Loco. I smell a rat. They both worked at high schools or secondary colleges. I'll leave that one to you can make of that what you will, but these are just very, very strange reportings for this just being, there's nothing more than the common cold. It's what I've said from the beginning, and that's what I still think. Herald Sun, 27th of May. Greyhound trainer Karen Leake, shock death, murdered at her Devon Meadows property. Related to issues in greyhound industry over the past couple of years, because there have been problems there too. Victoria is the only state pushing to sign up to the China's Belt and Road deal. Federal Attorney General Christian Porter on Wednesday noted that Labor's federal politicians disagreed with their state's counterparts about the initiative. He said it is actually very unhelpful to the bilateral relations, having states getting too far outside their lane. And I was hearing more on China and this something to do with fires. Queensland, 30-year-old Nathan Turner has been killed, but showed positive on a post-mortem test, and wife was showing symptoms but tested negative. The controversial nurse from North Rockhampton, who attended work when sick after testing positive, travelled 400 kilometres to see a sunset at Blackwater and could be the source of his infection. She did what? Now? What was that? She travelled 400 kilometres to see a sunset. You have got to be that's just... No. Just no. No, I'm not taking that as an answer. No way. My goodness. Does this mean that she killed him? Mr. Turner. Mr. Turner had been off work from Jellinbar mine since November with a medical complex medical condition. He had not left the small central Queensland mining town since February and only tested positive for COVID after his death, despite being sick for 3 weeks. He hadn't left town. Paramedics who rushed to the scene could do nothing and are now in home isolation along with 3 of the town's police officers, causing the closure of their station. The man's partner, who tested negative, will be tested again and is also in home isolation. The bakery she worked at is closed indefinitely after she had unwittingly gone to work sick. Something to do with the bakery? Oh dear. This goes into all sorts of theories, so you're going to like my next video. It's about the Picton pig farm. Not Picton in Australia, Picton, Canada. A controversial aged care nurse. Oh, here we go. The controversial aged care nurse. What was controversial about her? Oh, is she the one who drove 400 kilometres to watch the sunset? Yes, okay. Told authorities she drove to Blackwater by herself but did not get out of the car or interact with anyone in what would be a 4-hour-long round trip with no specific purpose. Do you believe it? I don't believe that at all. However, the date she gave for the drive in the second week of May is 1 week after the 30-year-old started exhibiting symptoms, causing confusion around whether she could be the source of the infection or the crime or not. It is not believed the pair knew each other, but extensive contact tracing is underway. A Queensland Health spokesperson said no evidence has been produced to date to link the 2 cases, but will continue to assess all information relevant to any case. Keppel MP Brittany Lauger said the nurse is now under investigation by the Cr0wn Commission. What's that got to do with COVID? The Cr0wn Commission. Oh, so they've got nothing to do with COVID. And called for her to be fined for breaking travel restrictions for non-essential travel. She had broken travel orders to make the trip for a non-essential purpose before testing positive. That, if she's under investigation by the Cr0wn, they're covering up for this. This is what this newspaper is doing by writing these. And also, when you think of lockdown, think that if these people are in quarantine or they have to, they're under house arrest, when everyone else is let out, people are going to start asking questions as to why they aren't out. And that's what I think they're covering up. Not only that, with the blocks of units and Victoria being shut down again, it's because there is more corruption there than was initially thought. So that's why you've got the second wave. Okay. 3 aged care facilities in lockdown. Linden Aged Care Facility in Camberwell, Hammond Care Facility in Caulfield, My Care Home in Kilsyth, all placed under lockdown after at least 1 resident at each had tested positive. I think that this could be elderly abuse as well. A problem I know to be rampant across several areas. due to being a nurse myself. And I would like to thank Cr0wn for this, because she's the one who helped me with a lot of this. With all the articles I'm reading, she typed all this out and sent it to me so that I could go over this in more detail with you, just to push to get out the news reports and have a look at what exactly seems to be going on here. Herald Sun, the 26th of May. 5 more COVID cases related to Hammond Care Caulfield Aged Care. As of yesterday, which this was quite a while ago still, there were 24 separate active corona outbreaks in Vic, but health investigators are confident of eradicating many in the near future. Victoria's Chief Health Officer, Professor Sutton, said the state's battle with the virus was far from over, despite the relaxing of some restrictions, which they've been locked back down again now. Victorian cases, total number of cases stands at 1,610, 850 men and 760 women, ages from baby to 90 years, i.e. reflecting ages of victims of abuse maybe, or crimes. The state's death toll sits at 19, one new death, a 60-year-old male. I'm sorry if these images are blurry, guys. It's all I could do. Travellers in quarantine hotel arrested overseas and brought back to Australia for investigation. 4,800 interstate travellers were funnelled into Melbourne after international flights. In total, 12,000 returned travellers have been in hotel quarantine, with their costs met by the Andrews government. Department of Health figures reveal that of the 115 returned travellers to test positive while in quarantine, only 80 were Victorians. Of the other 35, 16 were from New South Wales, 6 from Queensland, 6 from WA, 5 from South Australia, 1 person from the ACT, and 1 whose state was unknown. Okay, stores juggle safety and numbers. Major shopping centres have called in security guards and protective service officers to bust up customers flouting social distancing rules. The COVID cops are patrolling vicinity shopping centres, including Chadstone, The Glen, Northland, Box Hill Central and Bayside, asking customers to keep 1.5 metres apart. And digital heat mapping technology will automatically alert management to the busiest areas and centres in real time. What, for a virus, really? Maybe these are high kidnapping areas, missing areas, or just maybe trafficking areas. Chadstone Shopping Centre manager Michael Whitehead said, "We have a zero tolerance approach to antisocial and disrespectful behaviour, and our security teams work with local police and protective service officers to help enforce social distancing requirements. PSOs are at the centre on Saturdays and during peak periods." Interesting. Toy libraries are to remain closed except for click and collect borrowing and home delivery. Maybe it's another common pedophile hunting ground. From the Herald Sun, Chadstone Shopping Centre, which has introduced the heat mapping system. Here's the passage. Chadstone has now reopened 91% of its stores and customer numbers are back to 75%, up from 20% when Victoria first entered lockdown. Mr. Whitehead says key hotspots within the centre are mostly on the lower ground floor, so underground. It's a combination of the design of the mall. It's a bit narrower with planter boxes in those areas and a combination of retailer demand, he says. Yeah, hidden away. JB Hi-Fi, Kathmandu, Culture Kings and JD Sports are very popular retailers, and we're seeing some queues out the front. We've had additional security positioned in these areas. The other spot is outside the Apple store. They're managing their queuing area very well. We have no stopping in that area out the front of their store and a security guard in place to ensure nobody stops in that area. My God, they might as well put no stopping signs up now for us on foot as well as on car. Oh. The second last paragraph in the passage below lists some of the more at-risk stores. Then the last bit says about the no stopping rule of cars. Okay, of cars out the front of the Apple store in particular. Oh, maybe they're big points of kidnapping. I have a feeling this is to prevent kidnappers from being able to get to kids in their vehicle after being abducted. This is just a possibility. That's the thought that sprung to Sharon's mind anyway. Not sure if correct, just got her attention. Okay, Trump drug, HCQ, to be used in trial on Aussie frontline workers in the hope it could stop them from catching the virus. President Trump stated he'd been taking it for 10 days. Professor Mark Pellegrini, the head of infectious diseases and immune defense at Walter and Eliza Hall Institute, said the drug had been shown to prevent the SARS virus, which caused the COVID, from spreading in test tubes. The purpose of the study we're doing is seeing if the drug stops people from getting the disease, and we're primarily seeking to see if it can stop people on the front line from getting the disease. Frontline healthcare workers who wish to participate in the trial can visit covidshield.com.au. Okay, I'll just mention briefly here too that looking up Project Milestone has some good info on the child abuse cases, investigations that have occurred at certain times. You'll see information about Nicole Kidman's father, Dr. Kidman, in there too. He suicided. He didn't have a heart attack or whatever the media said he did. Okay, and this is here because that's what Cr0wn means. Info gathered from articles. Herald Sun, Victoria, 1st of May, 5 ADF officers were hit with COVID in the Middle East and have been flown home to Australia for sentencing or execution. Herald Sun, 3rd of May, AFL coach Dean Laidley. Police shared photos of him without permission. Inquiries into police conduct being made. Changes to policing policies in Victoria. Police are scaling back coronavirus fines and major policy shift following the easing of lockdown. Probably not now, they're probably back into it again. Earlier this week, police officers were told of a new process. Supervisor approval is required to issue a fine. There must be increased discretion applied in dealing with possible offenders. The police spokesman said of the new discretionary approach, while the change of chief health officer's directions is being understood by the community, members have been asked to use heightened level of discretion. Victoria Police recognises there may be some genuine ambiguity from the community and police members alike regarding the interpretation of the new directions. This new process will assisting in providing a fair and balanced approach to all breaches and ensure accuracy in offence determination. The way I interpreted this was that they are cracking down on the conduct of the police force. Not just that, see, they're cracking, this is what I mean by the Cr0wn virus. It's not just trafficking. I think it is crime of all areas, corruption and everything included in here. So some of these people might not be actually doing anything to children, but they may be also passing on images, videos, people caught with images or videos, and just other corruption details. 4-day working week across Victoria, a slow undoing of the current slave system maybe. Now Reason Party leader Fiona Patten has called on the Victoria Government to trial a 4-day working week with a view to implement it across the entire public sector. She has requested a meeting with Treasurer Tim Pallas to seek his support forward. It comes as the 4-day working week was floated by New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern as one way to help the country's tourism industry rebuild after the coronavirus crisis. Well, I wouldn't be listening to Jacinda Ardern at all. It was calculated that the 4-day working week at the Department of Treasury and Finance could save the state's budget nearly $4 million in 12 months. Oh, this is just for government employees. Okay. If the trial is favourable, the state government could roll it out across the public sector, which accounts for 11% of the Victorian workforce. The implementation across the public sector would generate a flow-on effect to the private sector. It would be a boon for workers as companies strive to compete to make themselves attractive to workers. You can't put a price on time with your kids. She said flexible working conditions during the COVID had shown the Victoria workforce was adaptable. Many employees and employers are finding that allowing for flexible working arrangements can benefit both the worker and the organisation. She said the idea would not see a loss of productivity in workplaces. Research shows that a 4-day working week makes people happier and more productive. Plus it saves HR money, with people taking stress and sick leave. With no loss of productivity and the advantage of improved balance, this can be a real win-win. It will also mean less cars on the road and extra seats on the train, better traffic conditions and better for the environment. Yeah, I think that last bit was... I would agree with the 4-day working week, but some people do like working more than 4 days a week, and that also could be part of the Nasara-Jassara deal. Okay, and maybe another bit of it here. Scott Morrison's plan to get the economy out of ICU. He said you've got to get it off medication before it gets too accustomed to it. We must enable, whatever that means, see? You've got to read between the lines. You've got to get it off medication before it gets too accustomed to it. We must enable our businesses to earn our way out of this crisis, he said. The government will focus on leveraging and building Australia's existing strengths, such as an educated and highly skilled workforce that supports not just a thriving and innovative services sector, but a modern and competitive advanced manufacturing sector. And I told you they were bringing manufacturing back. For those who have been with me for a long time, I have been saying that, and I've also been saying they would send a lot of immigrants home, and they have started doing that here with the study visas. Universities are online now, so they can go back home and study from there. I thought that was very clever. Resources and agricultural sectors that can both fuel and seed large-scale global populations, including our own support and vibrant rural and regional communities. A financial system that has proved to be one of the most stable and resilient in the world. World-leading scientists, medical specialists, researchers and technologists. An emerging space sector. I think that's something... Even the space sector is something other than what we think it is. And so much more. The writer said that the PM later to speak that day will acknowledge the challenge is enormous. PM Scott Morrison says Aussies must stand firm together. See the language? Stand firm together. And fight the economic devastation brought about by the corona. Does he mean due to corruption? After it was revealed 594,000 jobs were lost in April, could this be due to questioning for fraud or corruption, cleaning up? He said it was a very rough day for Australia and that the massive loss of work was shocking. The PM said Australians must brace themselves for further hard news to take over the coming months, and that impending economic recession would be tougher than the global financial crisis. This is harder, he said. We haven't seen this before, and young people have never experienced this. This is beyond anything they could imagine. I think this is what we're going to see. Whatever's coming is going to be hard. And it could be harder for people who are already awake to sit there and watch everyone else try and be woken up through what's going on. But I don't know if you've noticed, there are a lot of people waking up. So it is happening. The Great Awakening is happening. I don't know why that's there. And we're at the end. So let me know what you think of this, guys. My next video, well, I might do news in between. I'm working on another video, the Picton Pig Farm, which will be another longer video, and there's a lot of information in that one, so I'd like to try and get it out as quick as I can. There's a lot of news happening at the moment. Things are coming out left, right and centre. But it's really good to be back, guys. I'm so happy to be back. So, okay guys, I'm going to leave it there. Hope you have a good day, good night, wherever you are. And stay safe and stay calm. And hey guys, just to put an edit in here, the towers that are locked down in Victoria as well, I think could very well be, a lot of them are immigrants, so it could be trafficked people. It also could be criminals allowed in and in those areas. So yeah, that could be a number. I haven't quite worked that out, but I do think that these could be, okay, 3,000 people living in 9 public housing towers have been placed under severest lockdown, banned from leaving their home. Crowded living in the public housing and many communal spaces meant a high risk of community transmission. So groups of criminal enterprises. Yep, a high population of new migrants, Indigenous people, and people experiencing severe mental illness, and people who have experienced homelessness or family violence. Okay, that's what I think it is. So I'll add this onto the video at the end. Just reading over to see if there's anything else. Could take up to 14 days. They were getting delivered food. But yes, that's what I think it's about. I really do think that there is a reason why these units, these towers were locked down. And I think it has to do with immigration and trafficking. Or even organising riots and things like that. It could be anything. But I don't think it's what they're telling us it is. Okay guys, have a good one. Bye.